Hey everybody, welcome back to YourTube channel review where we make YouTube YourTube. Today, OrangeRaccoon was nice enough to ask us to critique one of her videos, and that is the How to Deal with Shyness During Puberty video. First off, we'll go through the channel. Looks very nice. She's new, only 8 subscribers, only 3 videos up. The last one is the first one with a proper thumbnail, which is nice that we're moving into that. You don't always need a proper thumbnail. Everybody pushes up thumbnail, thumbnail, thumbnail. I think it is important, but it really depends on the type of the video. I think this one is pretty good, but I think I'll just break into one of the big issues here, is if you just look at what's going on, we have puberty and bad posture, but then the title is How to Deal with Shyness During Puberty. When I first saw this, I was kind of confused. I first thought, is this an anxiety and shyness video where we're going to talk about psychiatry, we're going to talk about getting over your fears, talking in public, but then we're talking about bad posture, and I started getting confused. What does bad posture have to do with shyness and puberty? Well, this is a lot of beating around the bush. I'm just going to jump out and say one of the big flaws here from the get-go is we're kind of beating around the actual topic at hand, which is basically how to hold yourself or being able to deal with a blossoming bosom during puberty and having to deal with shyness with that and how you can have either bad posture. And that's really the topic at hand. But when you look at this video from just this, that doesn't always come out very clearly. And for me, I was just a little confused on what the topic was. And I had to, watch the video twice to get a little less confused on what it was about. Especially when watching it, you can see at the beginning, an early transition is a little confusing if you don't already know that is the topic of the video. So here's the video. Let's go to the start and start playing it.
As a girl, did you start slouching and hiding your body when you enter puberty because you were too scared how your body looks, especially chest area? If that's the case, you need to know that every girl gets shy because of puberty. It's just that some are better at hiding it.
So, first off, some really good things. She had a great transition here. She's keeping her self-center camera. Some of the drawbacks is the background. We've got a whole lot of background, which isn't necessarily bad, but I would say a whole lot of background is good if you have an amazing background, or especially if the background is what you care about or you want people to look at. Here, I would say we probably don't really want to look at the background, and especially because this background it's not an awe-inspiring cityscape. It is a regular street with a whole bunch of weeds, and that really caught my eye. Not that it's horrible, but people are going to notice these imperfections, and they're going to draw the eye away from where they should be paying attention, which is kind of center screen or on the things that are popping up on the screen. So one of the things that I saw was a big thing that could be improved is probably working on where we're going to be targeting our eye and how we're going to be cropping the camera. That was a beautiful transition. I really liked it. She does transitions very well. They come out very natural, so that's a really nice thing that I think that was done in this video.
Of your chest, there are 2 kinds of bras.
This was a weird transition, though, in terms of pacing. So here we first start talking about...
To know that every girl gets shy because of puberty. It's
every girl
just
gets shy because of
better
puberty.
at hiding it. In context of your chest, there are 2 kinds of bras.
And then we go straight into a talk about bras. For me, this was a little bit jarring because I still wasn't sure what the video was talking about. First, I thought we were talking about shyness, and yes, we understand shyness can come from the body, and then all of a sudden we jump to talking about bras, and this is where I got confused on I just go, well, how did we get to a topic about bras? And then I had to realize, oh, this is just our way of talking about bras and chest and standing properly. It's not really just about dealing with shyness, it's about dealing shyness in that context, which was a little not so clear with this. So going back to the thumbnail, if I was going to modify this thumbnail, I would either change the title a little bit to make it more obvious that this is, I wouldn't beat around the bush, I'd be a little bit more clear and concise with it. Or another thing is, in this thumbnail, what you can do is possibly even putting in a picture of a brassiere right on the thumbnail to give you some more context. So that way they're already thinking going into this video, oh, this is going to be a talk about chest posture, comfortable brassieres. That is going to be the topic of this, so that this isn't as confusing or as much of a strange transition if someone did not already know that.
one created by men and one created by women. You don't have to wear this created by men because it's uncomfortable. So if you're entering teenage years, don't feel pressure to wear them if you don't want to. One thing that you must not do is...
One thing I want to say here, this is where we see the importance of proper cropping and figuring out where your visual perspective is going to be, what you want to actually include in the shot. I like that we're starting off with taking raw footage far away because that gives you a lot of options to play with it later in post. The problem is we've got some really beautiful aspects of our background, but some really not so beautiful aspects of our background because this fence is... it's got some wear and tear. We don't necessarily want to highlight that. And when I watch this, I am looking directly at you. I'm looking a little bit about the background because the background takes up 90% of this shot, but I'm going to get distracted by a lot of these imperfections. I'm going to be looking at, oh, look at how not perfect this landscape is. And I don't want, I would think that most people probably wouldn't want that for their shot. They don't want that distractions. They want people focused on you. I always say, you have a great presence. You are a beautiful young girl, which is hard to find on an internet video, so use that to your advantage. I would say you should be the focus of these videos, especially because you're talking, giving explanations. Your background is nice. I do like that you're trying to keep a casual and relatable feeling to it, but I think we've got too much background in this case, especially since the background isn't really pertinent to the discussion. So, especially in these, when you're talking directly and we're focusing on you, I would focus more on you with the cut of the video.
To show that you're not confident. So you must practice having...
And same with this one. We've got a whole lot of background here that is unrelated, that people are going to get focused. These things are going to take the eye away from what's going on, when really the main focus is just in this box here. We don't need to be showing everything outside of that box.
Putting head up and having strong eye contact.
Another thing that I would have liked here is maybe a little bit more visualization and depth. We go kind of quickly through these parts. I would like... It's not completely necessary, but maybe even some. I'll wait till later to talk about the content depth.
That's all I have to say. Take care.
Last part. This end is very long. I think it's an okay end, but it takes up. It starts at what, 1 minute or around 1 minute. The whole end. So the whole end is a whole 18 seconds in a minute and 20-second video. It's a quarter of the video is the ending. So I would say it's a bit much. I do like that you're trying to have this part of the ending where you're being relatable. It's very more calm. This is not an intense channel, which I think is the purpose. The style is appropriate. But the problem is this is a really long ending for all this, even for the end screen. I do think you do need an end screen, something similar to this, but I would maybe do some slight modifications and maybe not keep it this long for this short of a video, especially because there's not much to do in these 18 seconds. I'm not going to spend 18 seconds thinking about clicking on the next video or waiting and watching something. I don't have a chart to review or anything else to look at, so I think it's a little bit unnecessary to be this long. But I do think it's good that you're having these kind of calm moments or interspersed moments where it shows that you're down to earth and that you're just an everyday girl. I think that's good, but what I would do is I would probably take these moments, especially when you're trying to highlight the background and make this more of a calm video, I would maybe use these as transitions between topics. So usually put this when you're going from one or when it's not a very smooth transition. You had some great smooth transitions, but I think the one where it goes straight into talking about bras is probably the most where you're making kind of jump from the narrative. And I think if you're going to have this kind of B-roll footage, this background footage, that would be a nice thing to sneak in there and maybe have a title or something to get the viewer to reposition themselves in terms of where the narrative is going. Overall, stylistically, I like the style. I think it was well done. The style, the changes and transitions are beautiful. Those are very well done as well. In terms of content, I thought the content was a little shallow. We didn't go much. I know I didn't show the whole video in depth, but we didn't go much into factual details. I didn't learn much here in terms of you have another video showing how to do that posture. I learned that there's two types of bras, but what I would look for is, you say, oh, you don't have to use the man's bra, you should use the women's bra, but I don't get why. Why should I use the women's bra? Yes, it's more comfortable, but why is it more comfortable? Is there a little history, a little context? Why do you prefer them? Something else. There's not a, it's just, these are the two bras, this one's better, and then we move on. So there's not a whole lot of depth in terms of the content. And I think that would be nice to have, because for me, if I watch this, I go, okay, I'm just going to take your word for it, but why? Why should I take your word for it? Why is this one better or worse than the other one? Same when we're talking about the posture. Where is it? Here we go. When we're talking about this, the reason I'd probably put a visual in here, because it adds a little bit more meat. It adds a little bit more context. I learn a little bit more when I can see visually what you're talking about. So maybe a medical image or an example of someone doing that pose, something to give me a better idea of, what these things are doing. Plus, it's a very visual medium. It could be as simple as you just doing it in the video, but I would like that because it would give a little bit more depth to the content, because otherwise the content seems like it's a very I don't want to say shallow, but I don't learn a lot in this video. There's only, if I'm going to chop it down to how many facts do I get in this minute, I get maybe 3 or 4 simple facts, and I don't get a lot of backup or background for that, which is something that I probably would have liked in this video, especially if this is being kind of an educational video. Let me see. That was at 43 seconds. I think that's it. If I was going to change the title a little bit, I would maybe make it something like, 3 tips to help with puberty bust shyness, or something where you kind of directly address what's going at hand. But I understand how some people don't always want to directly talk about those topics. If you don't want to address it directly and, talk about bosom bust or bra size directly in this, I would try to make it at least more obvious in terms of subtext. Like, as simple as just adding these bra photos in the thumbnail might be enough to make it where the person makes that kind of jump and knows, oh, this is talking about bust, bras, and puberty posture, not anything else. What I did, because this was a short video, I actually did a really quick recut of it, and I think this can kind of highlight some small changes that could be made. I didn't change much in the beginning, but I'll kind of go over some of the changes
as a girl,
as we watch
you just start
this.
slouching and hiding your body.
So this I didn't change.
If that's the case, you need to know that every girl gets shy because of puberty. It's just that some are better at hiding it.
This is where I added in this B-roll footage. What I did is I cropped it down so it's just you. It's got a little bit of the background, but we've got our eye drawn to this little title here that we added in, and then this is also going to be reorienting to, hey, now we're talking about shyness and being comfortable with bras. This wasn't a terrible transition on its own, but it was a little... I think it would be nice to see a slight modification to get someone back into the context of the video, or the context of this next section, because it's a slight difference. So I put that end B-roll over here to add to that transition, and also this can help slow down the video, because it seems like you want a slow narrative or a slower style. This way, if you want to have these things, these nice little additions, you can kind of put them in between points. So like if you had 3 different facts, or 2 different, you could do a little transition here, introducing the next topic that you're going to talk about, and that will keep the pace a little slower, and also stop you from having 20 seconds of slowness at the end. So I did, on this, I just put in a title, I put in a slow transition from left to right, and I cut that end B footage, and I put it here, and I cropped it down and over. So if you look here, I upped the scale, and then I just moved the location over, so that it's more focused on you, and I got rid of that top text. And so then we do a little fade transition, which looks horrible, but that's it's a much smoother transition from one part to the next. And then now we know we're talking about chest and bras already.
There are 2 kinds of bras, one created by men and one created by women.
And so this one, I changed the cropping of this. If you look in the original video and the 2 bras, when we talk about this, we have this whole big dead space here, which I didn't really like. That, and you get your eyes drawn more to the weeds and whatnot. If you crop it like this, one, the weeds are still there, but they're a lot less obvious. They're way down at the base of the frame. I don't like this part because we've still got a big open empty part. If I recut this again, maybe I'd crop it with you in the middle and these out of the way, and then when we talked about adding these bra photos, then cropped you into here, into this part. But this is just small stylistic changes. But I think this keeps my attention on you and the bras, not on the background, because there's still a lot of background on that. Then we go from there to another cut, and then you already have good transitions. So I talked about this in the previous video, doing a jump cut or a jump transition between takes to make it seem like you're not taking different takes. You don't necessarily need that because your transitions are all really smooth, but I decided to do it anyway because I'm changing the background a lot. I don't want people, this is probably what I would do over here, is I don't want people focusing on those weeds. I want them focusing on you. You are the main topic here. You're what's talking. And this background is just as, I would say this background is probably better than this background. I don't want to see these parts of the background, but if I just cut those parts out, this is just as much of a beautiful background. It still has some of those folksy attributes or local attributes to it, but you don't have those negatives as much. They're out of the picture, and I'm just focusing on you. So it looks more professional, it looks nicer, and it takes a bad, I don't want to say bad, a less than perfect background into a much nicer looking background, without really costing any money. It's just cropping it properly. And now the focus is on you, which is really where you want it to be in this video. Here we did some more cropping. So as you see, we still got the fence, we've still got the background area, but our main focus is on you. It's right here near the center, and I don't have, if we're looking at the old video, I'm not distracted by all this, because I got half a screen of dead space with really not as beautiful to look at this side. This side's much prettier. So what we did was we just moved and cropped to that. So now, one, the center of focus is you, and two, the background is all beautiful and less distracting.
One thing that you must not do is to show that you are not confident. So you must practice having straight back.
And this one too, we got rid of that background. So I'm not distracted by these guys anymore because they're out of the frame. All that I should be focused on is you and the topics that we're bringing up. So I try to remove all those things to make it a lot less obvious. And even though this still has blemishes in the background, they're not as distracting because I'm kind of forced by the framing to look at you and your topics. If you look at the other one, my eyes can very easily jump. Where is it? Boop, 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 boop. There we go. My eyes can jump around here and spend time around here going like, what is this thing? What is this connected to? I can't do that anymore because now I'm forced to be focused just on you and the topic at hand.
Putting head up and having strong eye contact. And in order to fix your shoulders and back, I made a video with exercises that
and this is beautiful. It's going to get them to your next video. I think this is a nice transition. But what I changed here is I said, let's just make this the ending. Let's not do the ending and then another ending. So what I did is we did a freeze frame on this when it's done and a fade to black. The problem is I don't like open shot because it freaks out with trying to do a transition with audio where you're decreasing the audio gently over a gradient. But basically the idea was freeze frame on that last part and then fade to black with a fade of the audio and then have that be your ending screen with your title. Or maybe you could then do a jump cut with some more of this B-roll of you for another second or two, for a couple of seconds. But really this whole ending goes from when we're done with action 6 seconds versus 18, so it's about a third as long. And I would say you could even, during this part, this is where you'd want your post screen coming in, your end credits with your like and subscribe and next video here. And that's probably going to be long enough where the people watching can click on the next video, go to the next thing, without just stalling on a screen for another 10 or 15 seconds, because you want them to either act or the YouTube algorithm to probably take them to the next video. You don't want a weird thing where they're going to start clicking on other things or going to another web page. But overall, I think you've got a good screen presence. So far of two people that I've done, both have been actually really good on camera. You did a great job with transitions. I didn't notice most of the transitions, which is really good. A lot of people struggle with that, where it's obvious where we're going to a different take or we're going to a different scene. I think you did those very naturally, and that came out well. I think the biggest things that are the ones that would probably hurt the most are framing of the video. So doing that post-editing to try and make sure you're keeping the person's eye on what you want them to be looking at. And I would say being a little bit more clear with the topic and a little bit more clear with the narrative. Because on my first viewing, I got really confused on why we went from Shyness to posture to bras, because I didn't realize they were all three integrated. And so I would say being a little bit more clear on that narrative will help a little bit so that people don't click on it and they get confused because they thought they were going to be watching a different video. But otherwise, really good. I want to say thanks again for OrangeRaccoon. This is not an easy thing to have someone go and critique your video in depth. I hope that this is helpful and that we learn something from it. If you have a video that you'd like me to critique, please send me a message and send me a link to the video. And if I have time, we'll get to it and hopefully help more people improve. Thank you very much. This is YourTube channel critique signing off.